Welcome to the show. It's a show because it's a very important day. Today is the World Mental Health Day, and it's the 10th of October. And we are here to discuss a very important topic about mental health, and more so in this desperate time of COVID. I have with me a very eminent panel of professionals, and most of them need no introduction. In fact, none of them need introduction. I will start with ladies first. Dr. Jyoti Sangle, she's associated with our hospital for many, many years. Dr. Surbhi Trivedi, another very eminent psychiatrist. Dr. Cheryl John needs no introduction at all, a very eminent person. There's Dr. Nikhil Nale. He's a physiotherapist who will talk about exercise and its benefits. And Dr. Harish Shetty, possibly the glamour boy of psychiatry in Mumbai, would join us in a bit. So let me start today by a small introduction. And I for sure know that famous personalities have all had some problem or the other for which they've had to seek professional help. I am a gynecologist, and being a gynecologist also, we've had mothers in the antenatal period who've had depression, and also the postpartum blues, as they call them. It's an illness which cannot be seen, or it's a disorder which cannot be seen, unlike a measurable disorder like hypertension. So it's something which is very silent, very insidious, and to a very large extent stigmatized. And this is something that we must remove. Also, today, we have COVID, and which is playing merry hell into people. And people are so worried about what's going to happen. Should they go to hospital? Should they go to work? Anybody with a sore throat is wondering whether they have COVID. Post-COVID, there are lots of issues which come, people losing jobs. The environment being such, what is the behavior at home? And what's happening to us overall? So therefore, I wish to discuss this, and I would like to lead this conversation. And let me ask Dr. Jyoti, starting with you, Dr. Jyoti Sangle. Today being a mental health day, what's your real impression and what's your real take about what's happening in India and in society?
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, sir. What I would say is the first thing I would want to start with the theme of the World Mental Health Day, which is mental health for all. So today, the first thing that we kind of need to emphasize and realize that mental health is as important as physical health, and the two are very closely intertwined. So in the society, the awareness for this needs to be spread far and wide. In the society, in today's date, the stigma associated with mental health is coming down because of the awareness being spread, but we still have a very long way to go. Clinically, there are more people who are approaching us for help, especially because of the crisis created by COVID. And yes, this journey doesn't have to stop at crisis management. It has to be a journey which needs to be taken forward, and mental health needs to become a part of holistic health for each and every individual. So
I think that's a very important point. Message. I think that's a very important point that you make, that it's got to be a holistic for everybody. And here I welcome Dr. Harish Shetty, to come into this meeting today. Dr. Harish needs again no introduction. I've introduced nobody, but Dr. Harish needs no introduction. Being the poster boy of psychiatry in the city of Mumbai and possibly the state of Maharashtra, including India. So we're starting with ladies first. And Surbi, what would you feel that the stigmatization leads to, that people don't want to come up? There's so many people who have mental problems and they have this thing and they don't really know where to go, but they don't want to come to a hospital. So how do you look at the stigmatization?
So what happens in case of mental illnesses, it's the moment we start accepting that brain is an organ of our body, things become much more simpler. Overall, during growing up or otherwise also, it's always being told that you need to be strong or weak. But what we all need to understand is brain is one of the organs of our body, and like any other organ which can fall ill, even brain can fall ill. So if heart has a problem or kidneys have a problem, people do agree to go to doctor. Same applies in case of the brain. So brain being an organ of the body, sometimes it can also fall ill. So what should be done is, we need to understand that, take care of it, and take help at the right point of time with the right person.
Yeah, I think that's extremely important. The right time and the right person. Cheryl, I would like to come to you. Today, it's not the common person who is being affected by the pressures of life. There are even the very famous personalities who've had problems and need consultation. Very famous personalities also. So it's something which goes across society. So what should be our take, or what would be the advice that you would give society? Surbi said, right person at the right time. So what would you say to society in general?
Thank you, sir. Such an important question. So just like, when we grow up, we teach our children to brush the teeth. You need to brush your teeth to take care of the dental hygiene, or you need to take a bath to take care of personal hygiene. In the same way, we need to teach everybody, I mean, right from the time that they're babies, about emotional hygiene and emotional first aid. So if we start accepting that, like Subhi said, the brain or the mind and emotions are arising from the brain, and we need to take care of them. So we promote positive mental health right from the time that we are kids, just like we teach them all other life skills. One is it will help in kind of improving mental health. Two, like you correctly said, sir, there are so many people whom everybody assumes that this person has it all, and why is he or she suffering from a mental illness? And this again goes back to the important point that mental illness doesn't happen because of the environment. An environmental stressor might trigger an underlying problem, but a mental illness is a physical illness affecting your brain and the interplays of your neuronal connections, your neurotransmitters, and that's why you feel the changes in your mood or thought process. And it doesn't spare anyone, and that's exactly why the theme of the mental health day is, mental health for all, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, spirituality, social status.
That's right. That's very good. I really liked your point about this becoming a personal hygiene, sort of mental hygiene, personal hygiene. We teach our children from very young, but we did tell them, don't go to a psychiatrist. You're mad. I think that's very, very important. Austin, at this particular point in time, Dr. Austin, there are many patients who come to the hospital and they're talking in terms of depression. I am depressed not because there's anything wrong with my life. I am depressed because the scenario around me, I can't take this. So where are we headed?
So, hi, good evening to all. So not only it's patients who are coming and telling us that because of the scenario we are depressed. Right now we are getting patients who are saying we are depressed and we don't know why. There's nothing going wrong around us. Everything seems fine, but we don't know why. So with this pandemic and social isolation, okay, the stressors are very invisible like the virus. Stressors are very invisible. Primarily being because man is a social animal, man likes to interact with others, and that is how they help them de-stress themselves. Now the avenues to de-stress have decreased. So people are getting stressed in their environments and the mental health problems are increasing. The depression, anxiety, OCD, different issues. So what we are seeing is more and more symptoms among patients, even those coming to the physicians and to other doctors as well. Now, with this thing rising, the main thing is to find avenues how to de-stress yourselves. And as Dr. Surbi and everyone else said, if the symptoms come, okay, is to visit the professional, the right doctor at the right time.
That's right. Dr. Austin. That's really a good thing. I'm taking that point about de-stress, and that's why I come to you, Nikhil. I think, in my point of view, that exercise is a phenomenal de-stressing event. What is your opinion?
Definitely. So, exercise is one domain which is always neglected when it comes to mental health. So, there are a lot of multiple benefits of exercise, immediate and chronic also. So, whenever you exercise, there is secretion of a few hormones known as endorphins, which are feel-good hormones. So that elevates the mood. That is one of the most important benefit of the exercises. Then when you exercise regularly, the overall fatigue or overall muscular endurance improves. So lesser the fatigue, the productivity becomes better and better. The person is able to sleep better because of the regular exercises. And in terms of if you consider the people who are already suffering with some mental health issue, in them also the exercise like breathing exercises can help in anxiety disorders. For example, in depression also, the hormonal changes will take place along with the physical exercise that can help to reduce the stress. The cortisol levels also reduce with the exercises. So there are multiple
Yes, so therefore your
benefits
energy
which
levels
exercise
also
will have.
increase, and at the same time, the endorphins which are released in your system, they really help, to improve your mood. I have left the most difficult question for the last,
Definitely.
and that is with Harish Shetty. I am going to ask you, Dr. Harish, today, mental health can disrupt a family's harmony. How would you address it? Dr. Shetty, was I audible?
No, can you please repeat it, sir?
I will. I said that first of all, I've left the most difficult one for you.
That I heard.
That you heard. Right. Today, I'm saying that mental health can actually disrupt harmony inside the house. What is your advice on that?
It can actually disrupt the family, the materials in the family. The fridge can break and the TV remote can be thrown. It can also affect the maid servant who will say, I will not come to this house again. And I'll tell you a story. I still remember this boy, 18-year-old, throwing things around, adolescent. Everybody felt कि इसको समझाने से ठीक होगा. Everybody felt ये उम्र का तकाजा है, ये हार्मोन का तकाजा है. And they all said adolescence से हम समझा देंगे. Nana came from Ajmer and Dada came from Jaipur. All the relatives came, but they did not go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I think both are very important in our field. And then when somebody said, हमसे तो नहीं होता है, let us go and speak to a psychologist and a psychiatrist. And then we found a couple of us in a hospital found him to be clinically depressed. It was not adolescent turmoil. It's very important to differentiate adolescent turmoil from adolescent depression. And when he was treated with medications, just like iron can improve the hemoglobin, insulin can dissolve the sugar, and an antidepressant can resolve the neurochemistry in the brain, he suddenly became all right. Before that, there was a lot of destruction. And what stops them from going, as everybody explained so beautifully, is also shame. The day people break their shame and walk into our clinics, that's the time they will find, sir, as you said beautifully, family and the articles in your house will not get this. There was another boy, sir, quickly, give me 20 seconds. There was another boy who walked out of the house and started sitting in the refuge area. The building people felt he's taking drugs. He was not taking drugs. He wanted to be isolated. He said, I want to be alone. Everybody said adolescence, he must be wanting to talk to his girlfriend. It was not true. He had clinical depression, and which was treated again by one of us, and the family was relieved. Age of onset of depression has gone down. Age of suicide has also gone down. Age of the first intake of drugs and sexual intercourse has also gone down. So it's important to understand, as you said beautifully, that one person ill can destroy not only the family, but the things inside the family.
Yes, of course. I think the entire family gets disrupted with a situation like this. Now, when there is teenage problem, at that particular point in time, it is also linked to substance abuse. So therefore, I would like anyone from my esteemed panel to take this up. And in fact, I would like opinions of all people that sometimes what happens is during this teenage years or young years, when they find that there is evidence of something abnormal, instead of considering things like depression, etc., parents become suspicious that there's going to be substance abuse. So therefore, I would like anyone on the panel to take this up and talk about substance abuse and mental health. Jyoti, would you like to start off with it?
Okay. As Dr. Shetty rightly pointed out, the age of onset of substance abuse has definitely gone down. The need to experiment and the avenues to experiment with substances have gone up, and the knowledge amongst the teenagers to be able to use it and to kind of get away with it is also rampant on the internet. So the use has definitely gone up, and quite a few times substance abuse is just a garb for an underlying mental health issue, and quite a few times it's the presentation of an underlying mental health issue. So the substance abuse does exist, but may not be the most important issue that we're dealing with. Coming to the prevalence of it, yes, we need to be, I think, more wary of it or more aware about it. But the teenagers are equally aware about it, so they're equally open about it if you ask them about it. So they're ready to seek help if you give them the pros and cons of it.
Right. Yes. But, Cheryl, this thing about somebody who's having a clinical disorder and feels that, some substance if they take, they will feel much better. So a hallucinogen, for example. Now, these things are being glorified in the media. Do you not think that the impressive mind would take it up as, the right thing to do?
That's a beautiful question, sir. And today, I think if you open the Times of India paper today, I think the first page, I think either of the Bombay Times or the Times of India says that cannabis is as bad or is just as bad as alcohol or smoking. So I don't know what was the purpose of that article in a main page paper where they said that equating the use of cannabis with alcohol and smoking, and saying that if you can smoke or you can drink alcohol, it's okay to use cannabis. And because you're talking about substance use in teenagers, and I think most of uh, the panelists would agree that we are seeing a huge surge in the use of cannabis in the youngsters nowadays. And I think a big role of media or social media information goes into that, because everybody tells them it's okay to smoke, it's legal to smoke weed. Weed helps in my creativity flowing, but we have to wake up. There are long-term studies which say the use of cannabis will cause your IQ to fall by about 8 to 10 points. Use of cannabis will cause testicular cancer. It will cause breathing problems, memory problems. So all these things are not put up or glamorized as much
Yes,
as
yes,
everybody is using it.
yes,
And
yes.
I think most of us, and especially now during the lockdown, we have seen so many young children as young as ninth and 10th grade who have come saying that, doctor, we are smoking weed or joint because it's easy to procure. Nobody in the family comes to know because it doesn't smell like smoking. Alcohol, they don't really want to enjoy so soon. So yes, when you said that any behavioral changes that you're observing, please be alert to if your child is using substance, and they use substance to mask a lot of underlying body image issues, self-image issues, under peer pressure. The
Right,
substance
right.
is a problem.
So I just take this across to Surabhi. Dr. Surabhi, I just digressed a little. The point that I'm trying to make is that if there is depression and peer pressure, as Cheryl very rightly pointed out, says that don't worry about all this, take cannabis, take MCAT, take methylamphetamines, and you'll be absolutely fine. So, therefore, the mixture, do you think, is a deadly cocktail that you have a clinical disorder and you're taking something which will keep you high? Is that a deadly cocktail? Because if there are impressive impressionable youth here or parents attending this thing, I would definitely like them to have an answer of this one, that you have a problem and you're taking your own stuff. Is that a deadly cocktail?
Yes, as you rightly said, that is a deadly cocktail, because what happens is when there is a mental illness, there is a chemical imbalance in the brain. And when a person is trying to take some substance, alcohol, weed, MCAT, anything, it probably helps them temporary with the symptoms. It might just help the anxiety come down, or it might help you sleep for a day or two, but it is not the treatment of the illness. Instead, what you are doing is you are giving your brain an instant relief for a short period of time, and in the process creating a tendency for an addiction. So you're landing
Yes,
up from one illness into another one,
another
because your
illness.
brain is going to keep asking for it again and again because it gets a short term relief, but it's creating more of a damage to the brain. What we need is a long term treatment so that the chemicals come back into the balance for a longer period of time and consistently, and not fast short spikes that are there.
Right, right. So, Austin, if I may come to you,
So,
I think, it's become very fashionable. If somebody has, a party, there's so much of media report on parties, and you know, the substances being distributed. But do you not think that it is something got to do with success and failure? Because people have a mental impression that this is success and this is failure. So are we failing in parental guidance, or in school, or is peer pressure taking over and creating these problems in children?
so, sir, as you rightly said in the start, like, there is a clinical problem like depression or something, and there is substance abuse. And sometimes parents, they think that substance is causing the problem and there's no clinical depression. But I would like to tell you, I would be very happy here if the parents start being suspicious and try to actively see whether there's a substance problem or not. Anxiety and depression, leads to substance abuse. Substance abuse leads to more anxiety and depression. It is a big vicious circle. Also, in the glamour world right now, okay, also in the normal school and among peers and all that, words like mal, meow, meow, these are fancy words which catch the attention of the youngsters, because of which they want to try it. Also, if they don't try it, they feel left out. Also, when they try it and they're able to handle it, it is a sign of, see how good we are, how strong our body is, how we are successful and we can manage all this, and this is how it is. Also, right now, I have teenagers coming and arguing with us that, cannabis is legal in other countries and it acts on cannabinoid receptors. It is for medicinal use, so we can have all this. So right now, what is very important is, as parents talk to their children about other problems in life, nowadays, especially about like child sex abuse, parents talk to the kids about good touch and bad touch. They need to sit down their kids and talk to them about cannabis and other substances and how it can affect themselves. That is, they'll have to first themselves learn. Once this is inbuilt into the system of the kids, they will be much more aware of what is drug is, how can it affect the brain, and what are the deleterious effects that it can have.
Yes, absolutely. So performance might even go down. Performance in all ways might just go down. And Dr. Harish Shetty, I would like to just ask you this. There's so much of blow up in the media. Sushant Singh had depression. He had this. He was a drug addict. He was, are we not creating a problem? Have we not created a problem in society? Is media not responsible for creating this society? Because many people would take this as an example.
I would just like to say that anybody who creates such a vicious propaganda and a cycle of viciousness, they are destroying that 1% of the family who's mentally ill, because 1 out of 7 or 1 out of 8 people in India are mentally ill. So 1 out of 7 would mean 1 person in your own extended family. Actually, it is. And honestly, sir, thanks for asking this question. Me and my friends are going to do something very big so that the media will actually not promote ill feelings and promote stigma about mental illness and mental, though the media has been a partner in actually helping us disseminate mental information for a very long time, and we're going to act very soon. And you're completely correct. Just 2 small points I would want to add, sir. About the exercise part, I would ask each one of you who's listening to the show to watch this 4-minute movie, Black Dog, not the whiskey. Again, not the whiskey. Black Dog is a 4-minute movie on depression. And exercise has been said to be an antidepressant when you have mild depression and an anti-stress, which is very, very useful. So start exercising, you'll feel better. The third thing is that all parents, whenever your sons come back from tuitions, from football, hug them. Hug them. Not because you love them, but smell them. Cannabis has a particular smell you can actually smell, and you'll be able to find out whether your son is smoking. Check his bag or her bag, and if you find an eye drop which you have not prescribed, which you have not got for your kid, then it's absolutely sure that he's taking cannabis, because these boys and girls put the eye drops as they come up the building so that the redness of the eye goes away. And at that point of time, if you cannot confront the child because you're very scared, because every parent is scared that the child might harm themselves, please go to your friendly neighborhood psychologist or psychiatrist. Thank you, sir, for the question.
This is very, very important, that there has to be an awareness, and the awareness that things could go wrong, the awareness that we as parents want to succeed through our children, and that might create a major problem. But as Nikhil, I'm coming to you.
Yes, sir.
What Dr. Harish has just said, that the answer to a lot of things is exercise, and you've amply put this point across. I want you to expand a little on what would be the types of exercises that one needs to do. I want you to expand on that there are various forms. There's isotonic, there's isometric exercises. What would be the best combination for a youngster, or for a middle-aged person, and for the seniors like me?
So according to the research, the aerobic exercises have been shown that they are most effective in causing the effects which are beneficial for the mental health. Along with that, the exercises which involve multiple joint muscles, such as functional movement or compound movements, namely squats or lunges, lunge walks. So, exercises which involve multiple joints, these are said to be beneficial for exercises and better health. Then, the exercise when you are doing, you should be doing almost at 30, for 30 to 45 minutes per day, and not more than 5 times a week. So what happens is the recovery is also equally important. So if you are doing exercises for 4 to 5 times 5 days a week, and there is no recovery for next 2 days, the again cortisol level will go up. So the frequency of and duration of exercises is also equally important, along with that what type of exercise you are doing.
Right. So therefore, as I take it, the aerobic exercise is a very good form of exercise, and that should be the right one. And we should, try and do as much of aerobics as possible. But Jyoti, let me ask you one thing. Today, we are packaging these disorders in mental health as an illness. But would you really think that we should package it in this manner? Should it be packaged that, oh, he's mentally ill, he's, yes, there is, to a certain extent, it's stigmatization, but there is also a lot of packaging going on about mental health. So we forget mental health is our wealth. But what can society do? I mean, how can we expand this into society, saying it's just like another illness, but attend to it?
I would put it this way. So this is the analogy we give our patients also a lot, that if you have a fall and you break your hand, it's a bone which has fractured, and unless you treat it, you will put a plaster around it, let it heal, then follow it up with physiotherapy, your fracture is not going to heal. And this entire thing is a process. So the mental health issues that we are having, these are a fractured mind. And Dr. Shetty would agree with this analogy. So it's a fractured mind. So unless you treat it, you do plaster on it, wait for it to heal, and then do the physiotherapy of a maintenance treatment, the issue is not going to get solved. If I want the issue to be solved, I have to accept it as a part of my health, be motivated to take care of it, and it is going to go a long way in my holistic health, which I have said earlier also. It doesn't need to be packaged as an illness, but it's definitely a mental health issue which needs to be addressed. It cannot be ignored. It cannot be neglected, because it's an integral part of everyone's health. Another analogy which we use is a cup of tea, in which we have an amount of tea leaves, an amount of sugar, an amount of water, and an amount of milk. Now, if the proportion is not right, the taste is not right. Similarly, our brain has neurochemicals. The neurochemicals have to be in the correct proportion.
Right.
If the proportion is not right, the tea doesn't taste well, doesn't taste nice. So please add the extra sugar or add the extra milk, and you'll be fine.
Right. I think there is also the competition which is so rife, and there are children who feel that they are unable to compete, and it is just because that there is certain amount of diffidence that they have to perform for their parents' sake, and this could also disturb the equilibrium of the mind. So how do you think that people should address this? And I want all our esteemed panelists to just shed a little bit of light on this competition and mental health, how competition can affect your mental health. Dr. Harish, would you like to go? The rest of them are quiet.
Yeah, okay, fine. Let us understand that India is an aspirational society. Nothing wrong in that. Families have expectations. Nothing wrong in that. But let me help parents understand that geometrically, the child should perceive acceptance upon expectations has to be greater than 1, which means the child should perceive that I am emotionally safe in my school and my family, and whatever happens, my parents will accept me as they are. I'll try my best, but parents will accept me as I am, and if I'm wrong, they will correct me, but they will not throw me. So if they perceive acceptance more than expectations, the balance will be maintained. But India is an aspirational society. We should aspire, we should look at the sky. At the same time, there are three caveats which I would like to say. I've always said this all the time, sir, that the software of sharing bad news early should be inculcated to the child early, which means if he's stuck, if he's failed, if he has had a breakup, he should first come and tell his parents. That will only happen if parents share their bad news with each other. I got a salary loss, my job is gone, my God, I've been demotivated, what a mistake I have done. If they share, then it will happen. Number 2, you might get angry at your child, you might be sad about your child, but don't humiliate, don't be aggressive, and don't use your hand horizontally, use your hand vertically. And number 3, children do not get parents as exchange offers on Amazon and Flipkart. Children can change their school, can move from one city to the other, but they cannot, and they can also choose their in-laws and change them, but they cannot change their parents. So both of them will have to work towards some balance and some harmony. And when the child is down, he's failed in his NEET exam, he's failed in his JEE exam, he's not got above 97 in his ICSE. By the way, 97 is the new normal. You hug your child a little longer and a little stronger. Protect your child. See that you manage her emotions. And in spite of doing all this, if you find that the child talks about death or dying, running away from the house, don't go to the astrologer. Go to the friendly neighborhood psychologist or a psychiatrist.
Very well said. Extremely well said. So therefore, Cheryl, what do you feel?
Absolutely correct, sir. Just to add on to what Dr. Shetty was saying, that nowadays I think as compared to maybe a previous generation of parents, the newer generation of parents do understand about not putting pressure on their children and not so much as focus on marks. But the kids are also facing a lot of pressure from the social media or from their friends because their reference points have changed. They put up a small post on Insta or on Facebook is outdated for the current teenagers. But whatever the medium that we use, a small post on Insta and about their success or even about their, I had a young boy who was talking about his mental health and how dark he was feeling, and he put up a post on Instagram. And he was doing really well with medications and therapy. But once he put up that post, he expected that there would be this whole, group of people who would like his post, and they did not. And he relapsed, his depression got worse, he became suicidal because his expectation that everybody would just agree or like what he said did not happen. So a lot of pressure also comes in from their peers, from the social media. Very definitely. And again, like somebody was asking on the chat also about sharing our struggles with the kids. Absolutely. Sit down with your kids when you're having your lunch and dinner. Don't turn it into an investigative mode when you're having that tea with them. Talk to them about how you bunked college and went to see the movie, or how you were kind of pushed and your friends were forcing you to do something wrong, how you battled that, or how you made a mistake and how to overcome that as a kid. Your struggle with body issues as a child when you were in school, how people make fun of you, and how you cope with it. And how sometimes you did not cope with it also. Because otherwise you're portraying this perfect image and kids are wondering that, our parents are so perfect and we can't face them.
We can't face them. Yeah. So therefore, again, the expectation of the parent as well as the child. So Surabhi, now what do you feel about this humiliation. Cheryl said that a post on the Instagram didn't work out well. And when it didn't work out well, the child went into further depression. So self-esteem goes away. Do you feel that there is a role of friends? Family is absolutely the sheet anchor. But what about friends, well-meaning, and support groups? What is your take on that?
Yes, so it's very, in cases of, like in a case of any other illness, in case of a mental illness also, a support structure is extremely important, because it is very important from the point of rehabilitation point of view also for a mental illness. In this case, the child put it up, it wasn't taken well. So what we discussed initially at the start, probably if we can start inculcating the importance of mental health, understanding that there can be a mental illness or there can be a mental disorder right from the start, right from the school level, it definitely helps. In addition, yes, support groups are there. Support groups help with the child or the person who's suffering from a mental illness, interact with people who have similar issues, speak about their own things. It helps the person to feel that, understand that they are not alone. There are others also who have gone through these phases, plus recovery is possible and they can get back to their normal level of functioning. It's just something, it's an illness that needs to be addressed.
Right.
It helps them stay better.
That's very important, really important. So Austin, your opinion on group therapy? Do you think that is a good idea for children, for youngsters, or it might not work out as well as you think, or maybe a one-on-one is better? My idea of group therapy is similar: people sitting together, discussing their problems in a common sort of manner. What is your take?
Right. So in the initial days of when there's a problem, one-on-one therapy is what works best. But how group therapy is, there are various research which shows that group therapy works, and it works fantastically. In what way it works is, an individual understands whatever I'm going through right now, it's not only me. There are many people who have gone through the same thing, many people have gone through the same bullshit, and they have got out of it. They have got out of it, and I will definitely get out of it. You look at the movies, Three Idiots, you look at Chichore, okay? They have shown how people have thought that, they are the only one going through it, and they have suffered. They have got friends to help them deal with it. Group therapy in such a case where they will know where other people are dealing with the same issues and how they have successfully tackled it. See, mental illness is treatable. That is what everyone needs to understand. Mental illness is treatable with therapy and with medications with no side effects, and these people do fantastically in life. So group therapy definitely works, 100% works, and people know that they are not alone. There are many others with them.
Absolutely. So, Nikhil, what about exercising together? Do people need to exercise in isolation, or will it help if they exercise together? What's your view?
So if we exercise together, if we exercise together, that it is always going to be better, because of the interaction, social interaction. Again, the motivation will be better. But because of the current pandemic, it is going to be difficult. So we can find a way out for that also. So here we listed a lot of disadvantages of social media. So we can make use of social media for a good cause. For example, we can give a 10 push-up challenge and ask someone, five more people to do it. Or we can ask a 10 squat challenge and ask few more friends of ours to do it. And that's how we can use the social media also.
Right. That's very refreshing idea, actually. I mean, it's something that I would like to push. And I would request you to try and see if we can have these sort of challenges done, so that we get people to exercise in groups. Bad news early. Share your bad news early. So while you're not perfect, but your child idolizes you. You are your child's end all and be all. Now, I just want to ask this question, and I want anyone to take it. Is would you shatter that dream of that child by saying that you're not perfect? Would that harm him?
Well. I think you have really dissected the question and put us on the dock. Very interesting, Dr. Chatterjee. Let me tell you, let me tell all our listeners that gone are the days of blind reverence. We had blind reverence to our parents, teachers, school principals. We would not walk ahead of them. We would wait for them to walk completely. Now it is an era of respect where children know that this is what they don't like about the parents, this is what they actually like about the parents. The child might idolize the parent, but if he has a lot of awe and admiration, he'll feel that the parent is so high, I might not reach there. So what is very important is that if the parent is human, so how do you share your bad news? Say, for example, I have got a salary cut. What do I go and tell my children? There are three ways of telling our children. One, the wrong way. I go inside the house with a puffed face. I don't open my mouth. I expect my family to know that something is wrong with me. And if they come and ask me, kya hua? I snap. Bad. Number two is, I explode at them. Your Swiggy will stop. You know I have got a salary cut. Now stop all your marketing and Wi-Fi. Don't buy clothes from that mall, RCT mall. That's again an abnormal way of sharing. The best way of sharing is when I sit down with my family and I say, listen, I've had a salary cut. We will all find out how do we solve this issue. I want your guidance and your advice. Let me tell you, the child's mind is very innocent. The simplest minds are very profound, and they'll come up with very rational solutions. I know of one family where they had this meeting, and the child said, Daddy, I'll stop ordering pizza once in 15 days, now once in 3 months. Daddy, I don't want a gift every time when you come from an office. I do not want to buy new clothes in Diwali. So you inculcate a value. So when you share bad news, share your feelings, ask for support, and you'll find that you have not said, "Arey, salary cut ho gaya, sala, I'm very unlucky. Sabka nahi cut ho gaya, mera lucky kharab hai." So you need to know the subtle difference of sharing and informing.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's really very well put. Does anyone else have a view on this?
Can I add something?
Of course, you must.
Yeah. Answering your second bit, whether we would want to shatter the image a child has about a parent where he or she is idolizing the parent, I think the first thing is, in today's state, the children, you cannot demand respect. You can command respect, but you can't demand it from them. So they know their goods, they know their bads, and they know what to take up and what not to take up. So it's the image that they have, which we project to them. They are smart enough to have analyzed that image, and if we are open with them, saying that we went through these circumstances and which have made us what we are today. Now, this is the present set of circumstances that you have, and now it's your turn to make yourself. I think that is the message, if we can send it across to them, that pick up your rights and wrongs. We are there with you. They don't need to idolize any of us. They make their own persona.
Right.
They don't have to come up to anyone.
I'm sure the kids today are very smart, and they would really have their own persona in mind. But what if the persona is like a Sushant Singh Rajput? Then what happens to that persona? That's my challenge. My challenge is that what if you choose the wrong persona? Who's there to guide that child away from the fact that you would damage yourself? Does he have the mental prowess to be able to sift through this? That's the question that I'm putting to you.
So as parents, we are anyway always there. So it's not that we are not there with the kids, but it's I as a professional and personally would also believe that we are there as guiding hands. We are there to handhold them but at the same time we should let them explore a little bit. That's one thing
Right,
for sure.
right, right,
Second,
right.
when they're building up their personas, as parents, we have to be very confident about what we have passed down to them. If we have not passed down the wrong values, they will be able to filter the information.
Right. So now I come down to this is the fact that we today have been locked in our houses for a very long time. There's a question in the audience which says, excuse me, which says that what is the time or what are the signs that would develop where we need to understand that we should go to a professional? So who would like to take that question? Locked up, 7 months, on the trot, nothing happening. So what are the signs that actually should, be there for us to take consultation?
So I would just like to add a few points about that. So the very fact that if you observe that there is a change in your behavior as compared to before, so you are feeling more sad than usual, or you're losing interest in things that interested you before, you're getting more anxious than before. I think there were a lot of questions in the audience about repeated hand washing or check, or getting more and more anxious about when the vaccine is going to come, or about getting an infection. If you're having a lot of physical symptoms and you're going and get it checked, and the doctor says, no, you don't have COVID, you don't have another physical problem, that you're having aches and pains, constantly complaining of throat ache, and you go and getting it checked and nothing turns up. If you're having sleep disturbances, if you're having appetite disturbances, you need to kind of reflect, introspect, see that is this a change from before, and seek out help.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. Anyone
Also,
want to add something more?
yeah. So if I could add,
Of course.
see, right now many people are working from home. Many people are attending school from home. One of the important thing is, even without symptoms, one of the foremost symptoms is decreased concentration. Okay, someone is not able to concentrate on their work. Their productivity is gone down. They are not able to work as efficiently as before. What they could do in 4 hours earlier is taking them 6 to 8 hours. They're getting more irritable than before. They're snapping at smallest things at home. If somebody says, pass me the curd, or pass me the spoon, or can I do this, can you do this for me, and they're snapping. These are early signs that that probably there's a problem. You should meet somebody.
Right. So that's very well put. We're running out of time, so therefore, I would like everybody's opinion on today being the World Mental Health Day, and the theme from the WHO is that mental health is a preserved wealth. So let me start. I started with ladies. Now let's go to the gentlemen. So Nikhil, what is your opinion on this?
Can you repeat the sentence?
Yes.
Yeah.
Today is the World Mental Health Day, and it said that mental health is a preserved wealth. So therefore, I want everyone to sort of give their opinion on the preserved wealth.
Okay. So mental health is one of the most important domain which is very much neglected, and because of the stigma in our society. So if we actively participate, we start from ourselves, from our family, then that will be the first step towards reaching our goal.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Let's go to Dr. Austin.
So mental health is, like it was spoken in the earlier part of our talk, that holistic health is very important. Someone is driving a car, they know that just for the car to be functioning well, not only the exterior body needs to be working well, the engine, the gearbox, the oil filter, everything needs to be in perfect condition so that the car functions well. Similarly, mental health is one of the most important things because it is the brain which is driving everything. All the chemicals are in the brain which gives all the commands to do different activities and the motivation to do everything. So preserving mental health is very important for a good physical and holistic health.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Austin. So, Dr. Harish, what would you have to say?
I think the most important thing is take care of yourself. There are a lot of ancient indigenous methods to take care of health. There's yoga, there's meditation, there's greenery, there's the sky, there's the sun, get wet in the rain, go to walk around your house. And kindness also improves mental health. And that I think is very, use all the indigenous methods to preserve your mental health. And if you see somebody unwell in your vicinity, even if he or she is a foe and not a friend, go across and find ways by which he or she can reach help at the earliest. If he or she cannot help or cannot fund her own treatment, find a way by which he or she can be helped financially as well as through access to a mental health professional. Be kind to people around you.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And let's start with Cheryl. Cheryl, would you like to wind up with a preserved wealth?
Absolutely. So just like how we are taught that you should always save some money for a rainy day, in the same way, we need to work on our positive mental health on which we can fall back on when we have stressors. So how do we build that positive mental health and improve the wealth of mental health? One is by building resilience. Like Dr. Shetty said, practicing kindness, a very, very important scientific tool to improve mental health reserve is practicing gratitude. Like Nikhil said, exercising. All these things are going to build up the bank balance of positive mental health. And in times of stress, how we would kind of pull into your savings and your FDs. In the same way, you can pull into these positive mental health activities that you have built up over a period of time with diligent practice when you're facing a crisis.
Fabulous. Very nice. Surabhi, how would you wrap this up?
I would like to say that brain is a very precious organ of your body. So please take care of that organ. It's very important to take care of it to keep a person well and functioning fine. So rather than, in case there is an illness, there are symptoms, take help from a qualified psychiatrist or a psychologist so that the brain resources can be used better in helping you function rather than taking care of the illness and its symptoms.
Good, very nice. Jyoti, what would you say?
Sir, it's always said prevention is better than cure. So preserving our mental health is something in which we are preventing a breakdown both at the mental level and at the physical level. Because the moment we have the resilience, the inner strength to be able to cope with any health crisis or any health issue that we are faced with, we can sail through. But if we are not able to cope our health, it may be difficult to sail through even a physical crisis. So preserving mental health is the first baby step towards being able to maintain and preserve our holistic health. And that's the message the mental health for all actually is trying to underline.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been a wonderful session. It's been a really nice session. I've really enjoyed moderating this, and it is mental health, preserved wealth. For the audience, let me just wrap it up. Please go to the consultants at the right time. There's been a very nice suggestion on personal hygiene. You should have mental hygiene. For depression, there has to be some de-stressing. Exercise is so important, and of course, the respect that needs to be given to a child when they're growing up would definitely foster a good mental health solution for the child and make the child extremely mentally strong, so that we in India have a generation of youngsters who come up with a very strong mental balance, which will help our country immeasurably, as well as help us as people. And we, the people, will go forward into this decade of 2020. We know we've started badly, but I'm sure we will be able to improve this and do an extremely good job. I thank all my panelists. Thank you all very, very much for having joined the session. And we will call it a day. Being Saturday, this topic can go on till Sunday morning. I don't want to delay all of you. We have crossed our timeline just by 30 seconds. And I'm very glad, and I hope we have more such sessions in the future to enlighten our population, to enlighten the people of Powai, to enlighten the people of Mumbai, as well as in the state of Maharashtra and India. Thank you all so very much. God bless all of you, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.